Hello everyone. Today we're going to cover some basic concepts like osmosis, diffusion, and facilitated diffusion, and lastly, active transport. Alright, there's one more thing. We're going to cover a little bit of information about the cell membrane. Alright, to start off, let's start with osmosis. Osmosis is one of the kinds of movements that happens in the cell. To define osmosis, osmosis is the movement of water molecules from an area of high concentration to low concentration. And this high to low concentration is called the concentration gradient. So, this high to low concentration, this is the most natural way of transport. Except this active transport, this moves from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration. And this is called going against the concentration gradient. Anyways, the water molecules in osmosis move through a membrane called the selectively permeable membrane. And this is, it can also be called as the semi-permeable membrane or the selectively permeable membrane. So what does this selectively permeable membrane do in osmosis? The selectively permeable membrane plays a crucial role in regulating the molecule's transportation, as it allows some molecules to pass through the membrane, but it sometimes doesn't when it is against the concentration gradient. Yeah, that is the most common scenario. Osmosis is, this is basically it for osmosis. H2O molecules, like water molecules moving from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. Right, so let's think of, for example, let's think of a cell. This is a cell. And there's some solution around it. The cell contains 80% H2O and 20%, let's say sucrose. And the solution that is outside surrounding the cell contains 70% H2O and 30% sucrose. What would happen to the cell? Yes, osmosis would happen, and as the water molecules move from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration, the water moves from the cell to the solution outside the cell, making the cell shrink. You don't have to know the shrinking part of it, but anyways, there is a crucial state you should know. Just remember that the state where the water is going out hypertonic state is when it is when a cell is a hypertonic state when its water molecules concentration is higher than the solution outside the cell when it comes to the water molecules. And then what would the other side state be? It will be called the hypotonic state. And this hypotonic state is when it receives the water molecules. You can just memorize by sending the water molecules out as hypertonic and receiving the water molecules as hypotonic. And that's basically it for osmosis. Alright, then let's look at diffusion. Diffusion is like not water molecules. It is just molecules. Yeah, that's it actually. Just molecules moving through a selectively permeable membrane from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. This usually happens in a cell membrane. See, we haven't covered this yet, but as you can see, a cell membrane is like this. If you look up close, it has some things like called a phospholipid bilayer, and there's things called protein channels, and this is really important for diffusion. So when the let's say material K. So as you can see, let's say this is the inside of the cell. The inside of the cell has a higher concentration of material K than the outside of the cell. Then what would happen? It would go from the cell to the outside. Yeah, as the concentration is higher in the inside of the cell than the outside of the cell. Let's just cover active transport right here. Active transport. So, like I told you, right here. No, let's cover facilitated diffusion first. So, when the material, let's say material K is like too big to cross the semi-permeable membrane right here, too big. They use, like I told you, the protein channels. Well, there are some molecules that use the protein channels even though their size is enough to cross the cell membrane. And this is called facilitated diffusion. Moving faster by protein channels. This doesn't need energy as it is moving across the concentration gradient. This applies to the same molecules crossing the cell membrane, not only the protein channels. So yeah, this is diffusion. Then let's look at some active transport. Oh wait, let's just write this down. Alright. Active transport. An area of low concentration to an area of high concentration. This is like the opposite of facilitated diffusion. Let's see. For example, there is the sodium-potassium pump. This uses the uh, transport protein channels to move, as the normal cell membrane doesn't allow the molecules to pass as it is from low concentration to an area of high concentration. It is selectively permeable membrane. That's why it doesn't normally pass the molecules by active transport. So do you guys remember that I told you that diffusion and facilitated diffusion does not require energy as it moves along the concentration gradient? Well, as you see, wait, no, sorry. So, as you can see, let's just give an example of a same molecule, not just a sodium potassium pump. They are all same molecules. They're all same molecules. Let's say molecule A. For some reason, the molecules A need to move from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration. Then, like, how should they do that? As the membrane is selectively permeable and it doesn't let molecules move from an area of low concentration to the area of high concentration, as it is against the concentration gradient. And that is where the energy source called ATP steps in. As the molecules two molecules A need to move the area where they have three molecule A's. They use ATP to move through the transport proteins. And this is really important. Active transport usually happens through the transport proteins of the cell membrane. So we're connecting this to the cell membrane as this osmosis, diffusion, active transport. These are all happening in the cell membrane. So going back, ATP, which is a source of energy, you guys know that, makes the transport proteins help the molecules move from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration. Yeah, like I mentioned before, there are examples like the sodium potassium pump. You just have to know this example. Anyways, that is done for all these sorts of movements and transports. So I'm just going to erase this picture. All right. Let's learn about the cell membrane. To draw a cell membrane, we can draw it like this. Sorry, I'm a terrible drawer. Sorry. So this is basically what a cell membrane looks like. If you look from the outside, like it has some little figures right here, right? These are called phospholipids. And as the cell membrane usually consists of these two layers of phospholipids, the cell membrane, you can tell this cell membrane structure as the phospholipid bilayer. As bi means two and layer means layer, and there's two layers of phospholipids. So let's examine thoroughly about phospholipids. If we magnify a phospholipid, there's a head part and the tail part. Let's divide the colors, the head part and the tail part. So the traits of the head are actually really different to the traits of the tail. As the head is hydrophilic. Sorry about that. The head is hydrophilic, and hydrophilic means loving water. Yeah, the head part loves water. And that is why the head parts of the head of the phospholipids are facing the solutions that are interacting with the cell. And the solutions are basically made of H2O. That is why, yeah, the head is facing the solutions. Then, what are the traits of the tail? The tails are, sorry, my handwriting is so bad. Hydrophobic. You know what a phobia is, right? Phobia is like fearing something. And hydro means water. So it means fearing water. The tail part doesn't like water. It despises water. That is why they're just crammed in here, not facing the solutions. You can just put that in mind that hydrophilic heads are polar and hydrophilic parts are non-polar. So because of these hydrophilic and hydrophobic traits, hydrophilic molecules, like, I don't know, let's say this is a hydrophilic molecule, they can't pass through the cell membrane easily, as the tails are really hydrophobic and they try to push it back. So it really doesn't allow hydrophilic molecules to go in the cell membrane. However, let's say this is a hydrophobic molecule. Pass through the head, because this is hydrophilic and it doesn't care. Hydrophobic molecule comes in, then the tails doesn't care too. They love hydrophobic. They make the same molecule that have their traits, so they just let the molecule pass. So that is why cell membranes let hydrophobic molecules pass easily, but doesn't let hydrophilic molecules pass easily. You guys got that? Alright, then moving on to the protein channels, like I mentioned before, proteins. So aside from the protein channels, there are all sorts of proteins in a cell membrane. There are kinds like I hope you guys can see this well. Transport proteins, receptor proteins, and other proteins, I don't know. Anyways, these two are pretty important, As, like I mentioned before, transport proteins facilitate diffusion and contribute greatly to active transport. But what does the receptor proteins do? The receptor proteins like bind the substances in the solution with the cell membrane to let them come in the cell membrane. And we're going to learn more about this, about movements like pinocytosis, exocytosis, man, these pronunciations are hard, and endocytosis. Yeah. So yeah, that is the basic rule of proteins. Transport proteins facilitate diffusion and let active transport happen, and receptor proteins bind the substances in the that are contained in the solution to the cell membrane to make it come into the cell membrane. Alright. So you might have noticed or might not have noticed that I drew some little bean-shaped structures between the phospholipids, right? Actually, these are really important. These are called, you might have heard of this. Cholesterols. Yes, it is widely recognized that cholesterols are bad for our health. Yes, if consumed too much. However, the cholesterol plays a crucial role in the cell membrane's fluidity. As the cell membrane is made of phospholipid layers have a trait of being really fluid, really wavy. However, the cholesterol prevents the cell membrane from being too wavy, too fluid, and makes it a little rigid. It can be said that the cholesterols maintain the structure of the cell membrane. These are really important. Alright, since we so therefore the cell membrane can be called as the phospholipid bilayer, but it can also be called as the fluid mosaic. As the mosaic is it's like a pattern, right? So phospholipid patterns and fluidity. The phospholipids the cell membrane is really fluid. That is why it's also called the fluid mosaic. Yes, I think this is all for today. And the next time, we're going to cover some movements like I mentioned before, pinocytosis, exocytosis, and endocytosis. Also, we're going to learn more about cells and their organelles, which are organs of the cell. Thank you.